Rev up your engines!
Rachel says, is premium gas helping my catalytic converter? I have an automatic 04 Mazda 3-liter with 240,000 miles. The light came on for my catalytic converter. I used Cat Clean and put premium gas in. After a couple weeks, my check engine light went off and it was great. But then a couple weeks later, it came back on again. Can the premium gas actually help? Well, you got a 240,000 mile worn out car, and yeah, it can help because as cars age, they carbon up inside. And I'm sure you hadn't had your engine carbon cleaned. When the carbon builds up inside your engine, what does it do? It takes up space. So it takes up space, so there's less space inside. So as the piston goes up, it compresses it with a higher pressure because it's the same piston going up, but the space that is going into is smaller, so it creates more pressure. And having a higher compression engine, they run better on premium gas. So yeah, it obviously could be making yours run better because it's so old and it's probably worn out inside. You might have your engine carbon cleaned and then you might find you use regular gas, it'll work perfectly fine. But yeah, that does make sense. It's not just coincidental that happened. Well, the public is hitting back at General Motors. There's now a class action lawsuit. Outrageous destination charges. You buy a car, they have, destination charges. Geez, what, you buy a box of cereal, it doesn't have destination charges. It had to be moved too, Disgruntled GM customers are saying the automaker's destination charges are misleading and deceptive. And this is being sued in California. Where else? One person paid a $1,195 destination charge, and another guy paid $995 destination charge. The suit says they're making too much profit on it. They're actually making a profit moving it. Well, of course they are. They say it's hidden markups. It doesn't cost them that much to transport those cars. They transport a whole bunch of them at once. To look at a historical perspective, the average of their destination charges being $1,244 in 2020. That's more than 2.5 times the rate of inflation that has been going on in the last 10 years. As one of the lawyers says, it doesn't take a mathematician to understand that a $100 increase to a company that sells 2 million units a year is a lot of money. They're just trying to jack up their profits. And now they're being sued in California. It'll be interesting to see what happens on this one. Ricky Lee says, I have starting issues with my Honda Accord. 172,000 miles. I turn the key, nothing happens. I try the second time, sometimes it turns over and starts. What's your take? I thought it was a bad battery, so I replaced it a couple of months ago, and it still does the same thing. Help. Well, you can have loose battery terminals, loose connectors, stuff like that, but it's an '06 Honda Accord with 172,000 miles. My advice, replace the starter. As the starters age, the commutator that spins has little brushes that feed it. The brushes wear out, and when they're worn, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. Just go and replace the starter. I've fixed hundreds of them that same exact way. Starters eventually wear out because they have brushes on the commutators that makes it spin, and when they finally get real thin, they don't make good contact. They just wear out. Now, guys, back in the day in the 60s, we used to take them apart and rebuild them with new brushes. Nobody does that anymore. We just buy remanufactured starters and install them. So go to any good auto parts store. My advice is buy a lifetime warranty one. You'll never have to buy another one. JV71334 says, I have oil consumption in my '07 Maxima with 108,000 miles. I replaced the valve stem seals, which are still good, but changed them anyway. Put it back together. In a few days, it's smoking again. First thing you want to do is just replace the PCV valve. And don't go to a discount auto parts store. Buy an OEM factory one from the dealer. They're better. That could fix your whole problem. If it doesn't fix your whole problem, it just means your engine's worn out and you're just going to live with that one. You're not going to rebuild the whole engine because it smokes a little bit on startup. Now, you change the valve seals, which often it is, but if that didn't fix it, either you didn't put the valve seals in right or the piston rings are worn. And if they're worn, yeah, live with it on something like that. All my customers with those V6 Maximas at that age, they burn a little bit of oil and they just live with it. It's no big deal. Oil is cheap and rebuilding an engine costs a small fortune. Captain Son says, myth or truth? I was watching your Miss, and I got a buddy who's got a 2000 Camaro SS. He says you can only put top 93 octane in it to make it run best. He's also picky about which gas station because you can get debris in the gas. Let's go by the gas stations. Ages ago, that really meant something because there were junky old stations. But a long time ago, the United States government forced them to dig up all the old gas underground tanks, replace them with fiberglass reinforced ones that don't rust and don't have problems. So it really doesn't matter anymore. And the thing about it is, if you really look at it, most areas have one refinery. They refine the gas for everybody. Then, like say it's a Shell refiner, if they sell sell it to Exxon. Well, Exxon puts their additives in supposedly a different dye, so it's a different color. So it's basically the same gas you're getting anyway. So today it really doesn't matter unless it's some really old clunky gas station that got by the federal laws and still has an underground tank that has rust. That doesn't happen that much. As for the 93 octane, he can put whatever he wants in it. It will run better with the 93 octane. He'll have more horsepower. But if you put the regular, it would run okay. The computers can compensate for it. But if he wants ultimate performance, he can buy the high octane and spend a whole bunch of money because it costs a ton more and Camaro's a gas hog, so he'll be spending an awful lot of money for a little bit more power. Cal says, should I buy eBay spark plugs? The dealer wants $16 per Denso spark plug. New ones on eBay is $5 made in China. Is there a difference? Yes, there is. Do not buy ones made in China. That stuff, you have no idea what the specifications are, if it's the right heat range, even if it's the right size to fit in. You can go to many different places. What you want is the same Denso spark plug. The same exact one. Price around. Go to Amazon. I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon. Go to the auto parts stores. And most auto parts stores, AutoZone, O'Reilly, Napa, they will match prices. So if you show on your phone I can get it for this, often they will match your price. But you want to get the same exact Denso spark plugs. You don't want to get some Chinese pieces of crap because that stuff, it's too cheap. It's too cheap. I wouldn't mess with it. You don't have to buy them at the dealer, but you can buy them somewhere else. Bald Eagle says, I want to know about bent wheels and wheel bearings. I recently purchased the Toyota Camry 2006. Car always ran smooth and tracked okay. I needed a new left front wheel bearing at 84,000 miles and a new one at the right at 120,000 miles. The tire dealer said that one of the wheels is bent. Is that going to hurt anything? Well, yes, if your wheel's actually bent, it's not perfectly smooth around anymore, right? So it's going to vibrate, and that will wear your wheel bearings out. Now, it would take a long time, thousands and thousands and thousands of miles, but better to change it now than later. Anything that's wrong with your car that affects how the tires are sitting and how they vibrate on the road, the wheel bearing is what they spin on. And if there's wobbling, that wears it. If the alignment's off and they're tilted to one side, it's only about a few thousandths of an inch, but over thousands and thousands and thousands of miles, that wears the wheel bearing out. My old Toyota, I was going down the road, I hit a curb. And then about 5 years after I hit the curb, I heard a noise. I knew what's going to be the right front wheel bearing because that's the one that hit the curb. It took 5 years to wear it out, but eventually it can wear stuff out. Ico 2-Man says, I have two cars with problems. I'm going on a road trip. I got a 2010 F-150 with 165,000 miles, 4.6 engine, and a 2007 Acura MDX with 160. I'm pulling a lightweight teardrop camper all the way to Yellowstone. What is more serious? My Acura has a whining or spooling noise when I make turns, which might be the power steering. My F-150 was in the shop and they wanted $3,900 for a timing chain and a fuel pump. It's a little ticking noise that goes away after a minute. I take the Ford. They're better for towing. Your lifters are probably somewhat worn. If it runs perfectly fine, those V8 engines can run forever. You're pulling, you're not going to have any problems. Let's say you took the Acura. Let's say it's the power steering rack and it goes out. Hoo-hoo-hoo. They're a fortune to replace anyways, and if you're a tourist going to Yellowstone and they got to replace it, they're going to see you coming and they're going to charge you way too much money. You never want to take a car that needs an expensive repair on a vacation because if it does break, you're going to get reamed even more than you are at home because you don't know any of the mechanics. They see you're from out of state. I've had so many customers over the years. If they had a problem on vacation, they bring it back to me and I see they got totally ripped off on repairs. Ed Castle says, I don't have an air temperature sensor in a replacement part I bought. I got an old 3 Chevy Impala. I needed an intake hose. Called the dealership and the only thing they have is a hose that doesn't have a hole for the air temperature sensor. So I go about driving it without the sensor. What should I do? If you search around, you can't find one. What the heck? It isn't rocket science. You got your old sensor, right? But there's no hole to put it in. Measure the diameter, right? Get yourself a drill bit that's like, let's say, a 1/16 of an inch smaller than that sensor. Drill a hole in the intake. It's rubber anyways, right? Drill it in, put it in, and seal the outside with JB Weld Quick, K-W-I-K. They're into spelling things wrong. JW Quick, JB Weld Quick, K-W-I-K. Spell it weird, but that's where it goes. It's a 2-tube epoxy. And once it sits, it only has to sit for 15 minutes. You can drive it around, it won't come out, and it'll work. If you don't have that sensor, it won't run perfectly right, and then eventually you won't be able to pass your state emissions test. All right, if you're like me, you didn't like that Toyota 86 because it was too underpowered. Coming soon, the 2022 model of the GR86 is going to have more power. As you can see by the picture, it's a lot snazzier looking too. And they're going from 205 to 228 horsepower. And they're increasing the torque to 180 pound-feet of torque instead of 156. It's a pretty big jump. Now, the GR stands for Gazoo Racing. That's Toyota's racing division. With the 6-speed manual transmission, those things can go 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds. They're still nowhere near any kind of race car, mid-engine Corvette that I try to out did it in 2.4, so it's not a race car. That's 1.5 seconds faster than the old one, so it's a lot faster than the old one was. Now, everything they added only added 24 pounds, so it's not affecting the performance much. And the premium version comes with 18 wheels instead of the stock 17-inch wheels. But still realize, they call it a Toyota. It's still 99% a Subaru BRZ. It's a boxer engine. Now, the base price as it stands now is $28,055, so I'm sure these are going to be $30-something thousand. But they have beefed it up. It's a limited amount of people are going to buy these things anyways. 2-doors aren't that popular anymore. But if you're looking for one that's got a little more zip to it, you might want to check it out when they get in the showroom floor. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.